The hair on the back of my neck stood up as I stared at the monitor, my own face grinning back at me from the abandoned lab's camera feed. Just as I blinked, she waved, and in that moment, I knew she could see me too. As I sat in the dim glow of my monitors, my eyes caught a familiar face staring back at me from a camera feed in an abandoned lab. Just as I blinked in disbelief, the figure on the screen raised her hand and waved, as if she knew exactly what I was doing at that moment. I've been working the night shift as a surveillance operator for 3 years now. It's usually uneventful. Endless empty hallways, shadows playing tricks, the occasional cat sneaking into places it shouldn't. But a few nights ago, something happened that sent chills down my spine and made me question my sanity. There I was, sipping on my lukewarm coffee, half watching the screens as I usually do. Most of the cameras show the same old nothing, night after night. But then, on one of the feeds from an abandoned laboratory on the outskirts of town, I saw a face I recognized instantly. My own. At first, I thought it was some kind of glitch, or maybe a reflection. But no, it was definitely me, or at least someone who looked exactly like me. I've never been to that lab. I don't even know where exactly it is. But there I was, walking through the corridors, looking directly into the cameras with an eerie smile. I felt a cold sweat break out on my forehead. How was this possible? Was it a twin I never knew about? A doppelganger? My mind raced with questions, but deep down, I knew something wasn't right. The way she moved, the way she looked around, it was like she knew she was being watched. I tried to rationalize it, thinking maybe it was a delayed feed or some kind of recording, but the timestamp on the screen read in real time. My heart pounded as I watched her move gracefully through the lab, her actions synchronized with mine in an uncanny dance. It was as if she was mimicking me, yet there was something off about her movements, something not quite human. Then it happened. Just as I blinked, she raised her hand and waved at me. It was like she knew I was watching her at that exact moment. My heart pounded in my chest, and I felt a wave of nausea wash over me. I quickly switched to another camera feed, trying to shake off the feeling of dread that had settled over me. But it was no use. Every time I switched back to that feed, she was still there, always smiling, always watching. It was like she was trying to tell me something, but I couldn't understand what. I felt a sense of helplessness wash over me, like I was trapped in a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. I decided to call my supervisor, hoping he could shed some light on what was happening. But when I explained the situation to him, he just laughed it off, telling me I must be seeing things. He said it was probably just a glitch in the system, or maybe a prank by one of the other operators. But I knew it wasn't a glitch. I knew it wasn't a prank. It was real, and it was terrifying. As the night wore on, I couldn't shake the feeling of unease that had settled over me.
I tried to focus on my work, but my mind kept drifting back to that feed, to that face that looked exactly like mine. I felt like I was being watched, like someone or something was playing a cruel joke on me. I started to notice other strange things happening around me. The lights in the control room flickered intermittently, casting eerie shadows on the walls. The temperature seemed to drop suddenly, and I could see my breath in the cold air. I heard whispers in the static of the radio, voices that seemed to call my name. Finally, the night shift ended, and I stumbled out of the control room, feeling exhausted and drained. I decided to drive to the lab to see for myself if there was any truth to what I had seen. The drive was long and tense, my mind racing with thoughts of what I might find.
When I arrived, the lab was just as abandoned as it looked on the feed. The windows were boarded up, and the entrance was blocked by a rusted gate. I felt a sense of relief wash over me. Maybe it had all been a mistake, a trick of the light. But then I saw it. A small, barely visible path leading around the side of the building. My heart pounded in my chest as I followed it, my mind screaming at me to turn back. But I couldn't. I needed to know the truth. As I rounded the corner, I saw a small, dimly lit window. I peered inside, my breath fogging up the glass. And there she was, my doppelganger, standing in the middle of the room, staring directly at me. She smiled, and I felt a wave of terror wash over me. I stumbled back, my mind racing with thoughts of what to do next. But before I could make a decision, I heard a voice behind me. "Looking for someone?" I turned around, my heart pounding in my chest. Standing before me was a man in a long, dark coat, his eyes piercing and cold. He smiled, and I felt a sense of dread wash over me.
"Who are you?" I asked, my voice trembling. The man chuckled, his eyes never leaving mine. "I think you already know the answer to that," he said. "You've been watching her, after all." I felt a wave of nausea wash over me as I realized the truth. I had been watching myself, or at least a version of myself, all along. But why and how? The man stepped closer, his eyes never leaving mine. "You see, there are things in this world that we can't explain, things that defy logic and reason, and sometimes those things find a way to reach out to us, to show us a glimpse of what lies beyond." I felt a sense of helplessness wash over me as I realized the truth. I had been drawn into something beyond my understanding, something that defied all logic and reason. And as I stood there, staring into the eyes of my doppelganger, I knew that my life would never be the same again. The man extended his hand, gesturing for me to follow him. "Come with me," he said. "There's someone you need to meet." I hesitated, my mind racing with thoughts of what might happen if I followed him. But something deep inside me compelled me to go with him, to find out the truth. We walked through the lab, the corridors twisting and turning in a maze-like pattern. The walls were lined with strange symbols and markings, and the air was thick with the scent of decay. I could hear whispers in the darkness, voices that seemed to call out to me, urging me to keep going. Finally, we reached a large, circular room at the center of the lab. In the middle of the room stood a figure cloaked in shadows. As we approached, the figure turned to face us, and I felt a wave of terror wash over me.
It was me, or at least a version of me. But this version was different, her eyes glowing with an otherworldly light. She smiled, and I felt a sense of dread wash over me. "Welcome," she said, her voice echoing through the room. "I've been waiting for you." I felt a sense of helplessness wash over me as I realized the truth. I had been drawn into a world beyond my understanding, a world where the laws of nature no longer applied, and as I stood there staring into the eyes of my doppelganger, I knew that my life would never be the same again. The figure extended her hand, gesturing for me to join her. "Come with me," she said. "There's so much I want to show you." I took her hand, and as I did, I felt a surge of energy course through my body. The room around us began to fade, and I felt myself being pulled into a void of darkness. I could hear the whispers growing louder, the voices calling out to me, urging me to embrace the unknown. And then, everything went black. When I opened my eyes, I found myself standing in a vast, open field. The sky above me was a swirling mass of colors, and the air was filled with the scent of flowers. I could see figures in the distance, their forms shimmering and ethereal. I realized then that I had crossed over into another realm, a world beyond my wildest imagination. And as I stood there, staring into the unknown, I knew that my journey was only just beginning.
If it gave you chills, hit that like button, subscribe so you don't get lost between worlds, and write in the comments, are you sure you woke up in your own world? See you in the next story.